The collective unconscious and why names feel UNATURL to fully understand why names slip away so easily. Jung believed we had to go beyond the personal unconscious and look at something deeper, the collective unconscious. This is the layer of the psyche that all humans share. It contains archetypes, instincts, and ancient patterns that existed long before language, bureaucracy, or social etiquette. In this deeper layer of the mind, people are not known by names. They are known by role, energy, and meaning. The caregiver, the rival, the stranger, the protector, the threat, the ally. For most of human history, names were secondary. What mattered was who someone was to you, not what sound they responded to. Your nervous system evolved to recognize intention, emotion, and danger instantly. A name offered no survival advantage. So when you meet someone today, part of your brain is still operating under ancient rules. It recognizes them instinctively, emotionally, symbolically. From that perspective, the name feels unnecessary. Your unconscious thinks, I already know who this is. The modern world, however, demands something different. It demands labels. It demands instant recall. It demands social precision. And this creates friction between your ancient inner software and the expectations placed on you. Forgetting names is often the result of that conflict. Why gossip sticks but names don't? There's a revealing detail Jung would have found fascinating. People often remember gossip effortlessly. If someone tells you that a person is dishonest, dangerous, or powerful, that information tends to stick for years. The name attached to it may fade, but the meaning stays vivid. Why? Because gossip carries survival value. It tells you who to trust and who to avoid. It contains emotional and social consequences. Your brain treats it as important. A name by itself carries no such weight. Your mind is not lazy. It is selective. It keeps what helps you navigate the world and quietly discards what does not, the ego inflation. Think back to the last time you forgot someone's name. Try to remember what was happening internally at that exact moment. Chances are your attention had shifted inward. You were thinking about what to say next. You were rehearsing your response. You were wondering how you were being perceived. In that moment, the other person became secondary. They were no longer fully present in your awareness. They became a background character in the story of you. Jung warned that when the ego inflates to fill the entire room, there is no space left for the other. Listening stops. Witnessing stops. Information has nowhere to land. This is not because you don't care. It's because the ego is anxious. It is trying to protect itself from rejection, embarrassment, or insignificance. But protection comes at a cost. When the ego dominates, connection collapses. And without connection, memory fails. The split between faces and unemy. As many people notice a pattern in themselves. They either remember faces perfectly and forget names, or remember names easily but struggle with faces. Rarely both. Jung would have seen this as a clue, not a flaw. If you remember faces but forget names, your mind is likely oriented toward emotional and relational recognition. You recognize people holistically. You remember their presence, expressions, and energy. If you remember names but forget faces, your mind may be more abstract or linguistic. You process information symbolically rather than visually. Neither is better. They are simply different ways of engaging with reality. Problems arise only when we assume everyone's mind should work the same way. Chronic forgetting and psychic ENTR took chronic forgetfulness very seriously. When forgetting extends beyond names into daily life appointments, commitments, objects, it can signal psychic entropy, psychic energy. Instead of flowing outward into the world, becomes trapped in internal loops. Thoughts turn inward. Anxiety grows louder. The outer world loses sharpness. People begin to feel distant. Encounters feel hollow. Time passes without depth. In this state, forgetting is not about memory at all. It is about withdrawal. The psyche retreats to protect itself from overload. But what begins as protection slowly becomes isolation, forgetting as ARMOR for some people. Forgetting names is a form of emotional armor. Keeping others nameless keeps them distant. Distance prevents intimacy. And intimacy, for a sensitive psyche, can feel dangerous. Once you know someone's name, they become real. They become personal. They become capable of hurting you. By keeping people slightly abstract, slightly blurred, the psyche maintains control, but this armor is heavy. It makes the world feel unreal. It turns relationships into surfaces rather than connections. Jung believed that while armor may keep pain out, it also keeps meaning out. Why memory tricks fail? This is why simple memory tricks often don't work. Repeating a name 10 times doesn't address the real issue. Writing it down doesn't change the underlying resistance. The problem is not technique. It's engagement. Until the psyche decides that a person matters, no trick will force it to care. This is why Jung insisted that the solution must involve consciousness, not conditioning, shifting from the persona to the self. Jung believed that psychological health depends on moving away from constant performance and toward authenticity. He called this movement individuation. When you operate from the self rather than the persona, you are no longer acting. You are observing. You are present. You are open. The self does not rush to impress. It does not rehearse lines. It does not inflate or shrink. It witnesses, and the witness remembers, speaking. The language of the unsettling, the unconscious, does not think in words. It thinks in images, symbols, and patterns. This is why turning names into images works so well for intuitive minds. You are not forcing memory. You are cooperating with it. You are saying, I understand your language. Let's speak in symbols. When you do this, resistance drops. The gatekeeper relaxes. The information is allowed through, making the darkness conscious, but technique alone is not enough. Jung's most famous insight still applies. Growth comes from making the unconscious conscious. The next time you feel yourself drifting away during an introduction, pause internally. Notice the judgment. Notice the disinterest. Notice the anxiety. Don't fight it. Just acknowledge it. That moment of honesty breaks. The spell, what was automatic, becomes optional. And with choice comes responsibility. Names as an act of RCOGNITIO and remembering. Someone's name is more than politeness. It is recognition. It is saying, I see you. You exist in my inner world. Jung believed that psychological healing involves expanding the self to include others, rather than shrinking the world to protect the ego. Every remembered name is a small act of inclusion. Synchronicity and ATTNTO and Jung also believe that attention changes meaning. When you approach encounters as random and unimportant, they feel empty. When you approach them as potentially meaningful, something shifts. He called this synchronicity, meaningful coincidence. The person whose name you are about to forget may carry something you need: a perspective, a challenge, a lesson, or a mirror. When you treat introductions as possible turning points rather than obligations, your mind becomes alert. Presence sharpens. Memory follows. The final shift. So the next time someone says, hi, do something different. Take a breath. Drop the mask. Quiet the inner commentary. Look at the human being, not the situation. Let their name become a symbol, not a sound, and notice what happens. Final TOOGTT. We're never bad with names. You were simply operating on a deeper level of meaning in a world obsessed with labels. That depth is a gift, but it must be balanced with presence, because memory is not about capacity. It is about connection. And when connection is real, forgetting disappears. When forgetting names is really about losing yourself, explored why forgetting names is not a failure of memory, but a signal from the unconscious. Now, we need to go deeper, because there is a more unsettling question hidden underneath all of this. What if forgetting names isn't just about other people? What if it's about how disconnected you've become from your own presence? Jung believed that whenever a psychological pattern becomes widespread, it reflects something happening not just in individuals but in the culture itself. And in the modern world, forgetting names has become almost normal. We joke about it. We apologize for it. We label ourselves as bad with names and move on, but Jung would have asked a different question. What kind of world creates minds that can no longer hold on to human identities? The modern mind is overfed and UNDRNOURSHD. We live in an age of constant stimulation. Names, faces, notifications, messages, headlines, profiles, and content flood our awareness every day. The mind is constantly receiving information, but very little of it carries depth. Jung warned that the psyche cannot metabolize endless surface-level input. When meaning is absent, the unconscious begins to shut doors. Forgetting names, in this sense, is not a flaw. It is the psyche saying, enough. Your mind is protecting itself from saturation. It no longer wants to store what feels interchangeable, temporary, or hollow. Digital life and the collapse of human prescience there is another layer Jung could never have fully predicted. But his ideas apply perfectly to it. Digital life has flattened human identity. Online. People are reduced to usernames, profile pictures, and fragments. You scroll past hundreds of faces every day. Your brain learns that most human images do not require engagement. This trains the psyche to treat people as disposable impressions. So, when you meet someone in real life, part of your mind is still operating under digital rules. It assumes the encounter is temporary, replaceable, forgettable. The name slips away because your unconscious has learned that most connections do not last. Forgetting names as a response to emotional BORNOUT. Jung worked extensively with patients who were emotionally exhausted. He noticed that when emotional reserves run low, the psyche becomes selective to the point of withdrawal. When you are burned out, overwhelmed, or internally fragmented, remembering names becomes harder, not because you don't care, but because you don't have the energy to care. Your unconscious begins rationing attention. It chooses to invest only where emotional return feels possible. Everything else fades. Trauma, hypervigilance, and DISCON and SETION for some people. Forgetting names has roots in trauma. Jung observed that trauma disrupts presence. It pulls attention inward toward safety monitoring. When the nervous system is on guard, it prioritizes threat detection over relational detail. Names become irrelevant compared to scanning tone, posture, and emotional risk. In these cases, forgetting is not absent-mindedness. It is survival. And shaming yourself for it only deepens the wound. The loss of ritual and why names nitrogen monoxide longer land in traditional societies. Names were embedded in ritual. Introductions were slow, meaningful, contextual. Modern introductions are rushed and transactional. Hi, I'm nice to meet you. No pause, no grounding, no significance. Jung believed ritual helps the psyche register transitions. Without ritual, moments fail to imprint. Names don't land because the moment itself isn't held. Identity, fragmentation in the modern PRSONU, warned that when a person lives too long in their persona, adapting endlessly to roles and expectations, they lose contact with the self. When this happens, presence weakens. And memory follows presence. If you feel like you're constantly shifting who you are depending on the situation, forgetting names may be a symptom of deeper identity fatigue. You are there, but not fully inhabiting yourself. Why some people remember you even when you forget. TCM, have you ever noticed that some people remember your name effortlessly, even if you barely remember them? Jung would say this isn't about intelligence. It's about attention quality. Some people meet others without armor, without performance, without self-monitoring. They arrive fully. And because they arrive fully, their minds record fully the moral weight of uname and Jungian psychology. Naming is not neutral. To name something is to acknowledge its reality. This is why ancient myths place enormous power in names. To know a name is to have a relationship with the thing named. When you forget names, the psyche may be resisting relationship, not out of cruelty, but out of fear. Relearning how to meet POPL. Jung would not tell you to try harder. He would tell you to slow down. To meet fewer people more deeply. To allow silence and introductions. To let curiosity replace performance. When curiosity is genuine, memory becomes effortless. A practice, not a TCHNIQUE. Here is the Jungian practice, not a trick. When you meet someone, silently say to yourself, this is a whole human life, just like mine. That single thought shifts attention. It moves energy outward. And when energy moves outward, memory stabilizes. The final ION forgetting names is not about laziness. It is about overload, self-protection, disconnection, loss of ritual, loss of presence. Jung believed healing happens when we reclaim attention as an ethical act. To remember someone's name is to grant them psychological reality, and to grant others reality is how we regain our own.